close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Star Sport podcast. My name is Jack McCarran of the Southern Star and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. On today's show we'll be reflecting on Cork's Munster final loss to Kerry and looking ahead to what the qualifiers hold in store for the Rebels.
We'll also hear from an emotional Ronan McCarthy who spoke to the press in the immediate aftermath of the game.
But Kieran, before we hear from the Cork manager, you spoke to Denis Hurley in the bowels of Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Saturday evening and you had a quick chat breaking down the Cork performance.
We're here now at Páirc Uí Chaoimh and I'm joined by Denis Hurley to have a quick look back on the Munster final. A lot of positives for Cork to take from this one, Denis.
Yeah, I suppose you'd say quantified positives because like Ronan McCarthy said to us in the press conference, if he is giving his approval for a result like this, it means he's accepting of defeat. Obviously it's a positive compared to last year when Cork had a good start and still lost by 17 points. They never led tonight and they were still in the game right up until the very end. They could have scrambled a late equalising goal. But say if you're being critical, you'd say they gave Kerry a 7-point start and then having got level and Kerry down a man for the last quarter, Cork weren't ever able to get level again or to get ahead, and that's something you'd be kind of quibbling with. But by and large, Cork went into the qualifiers in a positive frame of mind, you'd have to think.
When you compare to this time last year, like you said there, Cork lost the Munster final, I think 17 points last year, and then into the qualifiers then with the heads down, then got hockeyed by Tyrone. But now he's stuck into the qualifiers with another performance to build on. Like they did well against Limerick, they did well. I know they lost tonight against Kerry, but at least it's something to build on, something to take forward going into the qualifiers.
Absolutely, you know, they're not going to be playing an invincible team in the qualifiers. I'd say it will be a winnable game. The only caution you'd have against this being an encouraging performance is that in 2015 Cork went to Killarney and drew, then lost the replay, and a week later put in a terrible performance against Kildare in the qualifiers and they were out of the championship. So it's important to see this as a step on a journey and not just the high point that they were planning for and peaking for, and all of a sudden you fall off a cliff again.
Do you feel there's something different about this Cork team all of a sudden, a different energy about them? Even you could hear the fans here now tonight in Páirc Uí Chaoimh when Cork drew level there, when Brian Hurley got the goal, the rebel chants went up. You could actually feel the atmosphere for the first time in a long while. You could feel the support of the Cork public behind the Cork team, and even when they left the field at the end, they were applauded off the field, which is, for them, like, that's considering what they've been through and what they've been subjected to. It's great for them. Like
it's a bad state of affairs that it was worthy of remarking on that this happened. It should be the rule, but it's the exception. You know, Cork footballers are often the forgotten child behind the hurlers. It was good that the fans got behind the players and they tried to push them on in the second half to come back, and there was great reception coming off the pitch. But obviously you want more fans doing that. You know, an attendance of 18,265 is way below what you'd be expecting for a Munster final, and it just reflected the public perception of what was going to happen.
Some of the kind of standout performers for Cork against Kerry, I think Ronan talked about Nemo Donovan and Matty Taylor had good games. He mentioned Ruairi Deane as some fella in the top 10 footballers in the country right now. But it's three of the main fellas. To be fair to Kerrigan and Loughrea, they had good games, you know, kind of fellas with probably question marks over them coming into the game.
Yeah, I think people are looking at the team and wondering how they would come near beating Kerry. Obviously Cork were forced into 3 changes on Thursday evening, which did hamper preparation slightly, and it had a knock-on effect in that you didn't have as many options coming off the bench. But definitely there were a lot of good performances on the field. Obviously Brian Hurley still isn't that full pelt. He still got a goal. He might have had another goal if Mark Collins had played him in, but at the same time you'd be kind of giving Mark Collins credit for going for that goal chance himself as well. Like I say, Liam O'Donovan, Matty Taylor both playing their first Munster final, didn't look out of place at all. Ruairi Deane definitely has stepped up a level. to become one of the elite players in the country. So definitely a lot more pluses than negatives. If you were being critical again, you'd say they created a lot of goal chances and maybe could have even scored more than 3.
Yeah.
But you know, it definitely was. It leaves you in a more positive frame of mind with regards to Cork going forward.
No, good point. Like, just to finish up on that, like we're 12 months on from obviously the 2018 Munster final, when everyone was leaving Páirc Uí Chaoimh with kind of heads down and thinking what next for Cork football. We're leaving Páirc Uí Chaoimh tonight, kind of a lot more positive about the future of this team. So it depends on the qualifiers draw now, but definitely something to build on.
Definitely something to build on, but it's important to build on it. You know, you can't just go lose in the qualifiers and then you're there next year and you have 6 new players in again, and like that, it's always the case that you're always starting from scratch again, or always looking to rebuild. You know, Cork really are at the stage now where this has to be a platform for something else.
No, good stuff, Denis. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
Kieran, those were your thoughts in the immediate aftermath of the game, and you've had a couple of days to think about it now. Are your feelings very much the same? An impressive Cork performance and something to build on?
Yeah, I think that's it, Jack. I think, like you said there, it's something to build on. I know there was a lot of kind of trepidation and almost fear, you could say, going into this Munster final, because even though Cork had a good performance against Limerick in the semi-final, nobody knew what to expect, because with this Cork team and Cork football over the years, that inconsistency that we've spoken about before, you just didn't know, could they follow up a good performance against Limerick with another good performance against Kerry. And we had to take into account too what happened in last year's Munster final when Kerry won by 17 points. It did look a bit ominous early on. Kerry were 1-5 to 1 point up 12-13 minutes in, but in fairness, like, Cork showed balls the last night. They didn't lie down. They fought really, really hard.
And they had their chances in that period as well, didn't they? When they were 5 or 6 points down, it's not like they were pinned in. They had some goal chances. They probably just weren't clinical enough in the early parts of the game.
That's it. Like, Cork will finish the game with some big regrets. Like, they missed 3 chances of points in the first 10 minutes. They all drifted past the kind of the right hand post in the Blackrock end down there. Then they had their goal chances too. Ruairi burst through. Shadek, the Kerry goalkeeper, Shane Ryan. There was Luke Connolly just before that, had kind of a half chance. He was coming in at an angle and he dragged his shot badly wide. Then there was Mark Collins too, again in the first half. He was going right through and he could have hand passed to Brian Hurley. Probably should have hand passed to Brian. But Mark took on the shot himself. But in fairness, it was a very good block, I think, by the Kerry full-back, Tadhg Morley. So Cork had goal chances in the first half. They split that Kerry defence wide open. Cork went in 6 points down at half-time. But and Kerry were the better team, to be fair. Like, they were slicker, like, kind of... Like,
yeah, I suppose just on the point you're making there about the Cork attack splitting the Kerry defence on occasion. The Kerry defence split the Cork attack on several occasions in the first half, and they also didn't put the goals away. So it could have been a wider margin or a closer margin. There was chances on both ends. Neither defence really covered themselves in too much glory in the first half.
No, you're dead right, Jack. They didn't. I think there was one run by Gavin White there in the first half for Kerry. He went right through the Cork defence, and I think he did opt for a point at the end. He could have gone for goals. So, and Kerry had another great goal chance before that as well. So Cork had their issues in defence too. But I suppose you got to put into perspective, like, this was a Division 3 team against a Division 1 team. I know Peter Keane, the Kerry manager, said after that he doesn't view Cork as a Division 3 team, but that's where they are. They were relegated from Division 2. They are a Division 3 team. So for Cork to cause Kerry so many problems, I think it's a good indication for Cork. Not so much for Kerry, but like, Cork will take a lot of positives from that performance. And they, like I said, they did create goal chances. Even going into the second half, they got the 2 goals. Won a penalty from Luke Connolly. Brian Hurley in with a clever flick. But besides that, Deane had another chance where he jinked his way through. I think he should have opted to kind of even fist over a point, but he just kept going, and he had a shot blocked by Jack Sherwood. But the decision making for Cork left a lot to be desired at times. Their shot selection, their decision making, they passed up the amount of opportunities, Jack. Kind of, that's why they will have regrets, because Kerry were there for the taking. And I think the more people look back at the video and you see the chances that Cork missed, I think Cork took 13 out of 26 scoring opportunities. Kerry took 20 out of 25, and that's the clinical nature that Kerry had. Kerry took their chances when they were there, and Cork didn't take theirs.
Well, you mentioned regrets a couple of times there, in particular Cork's finishing in the first half, some regrets, but I think it's fair to say the biggest regret Cork and the Cork management team will have coming out of Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Saturday evening was the fact that they didn't take advantage when they had the extra man. So on 52 minutes, Paul Gainey received his marching orders for a yellow card, followed by a black card. But if you watched the big hit up close, it probably should have been a straight red in the first place. But regardless, he saw his marching orders with just shy of 20 minutes remaining in the game. There wasn't much in it at that stage, but Cork couldn't kick on and take advantage. In fact, I think Kerry outscored Cork during that period. So that's going to be something they'll have to look at. Obviously, there's the old adage, it's tougher to play against 14, but that's a tired cliche, realistically. And something that they look back on probably thinking, that was there for us. Like
it is, and even after Brian Hurley got the goal to level the game, you got the feeling if Cork could even just creep 1 point ahead, you could feel it in the stands in the stadium at the time. There was the roar of rebels. You could actually feel the kind of the stadium starting, like the fans were starting to believe, and I think and the players obviously believed that they could do it. But I think if Cork just went 1 point ahead psychologically, they might have kicked on, but they never did. Instead, it was Kerry went back up the other end and got the couple of points. And like you mentioned there, when Paul Gainey was sent off, Cork just never took advantage of that. And even the subs that came on for Cork, I don't think they got any scores off the bench. To be fair again to Cork, they were kind of decimated again with injuries in the run up to last Saturday night. Thomas Clancy, John O'Rourke and Owen McSweeney all cried off during the week. So the options were limited to a certain extent, but they still brought the likes of Michael Hurley and Stephen Sherlock off the bench. But they just didn't get any scores from their subs. It was a good Cork performance, but they have a lot of areas to work on. I don't think anyone should be getting too carried away. They lost the game. It was a good performance, but they have a lot of areas where they can improve. But that's actually positive, kind of they troubled a Division 1 Kerry team by playing well, but they still have a lot of areas where they can play better.
But I think just on the positives, I suppose, I think one major positive, apart from the overall good performance, was the clear cohesiveness amongst the Cork players. There was a real spirit. You mentioned the chants of rebels after Brian Hurley scored the goal, so the fans were getting involved. And then I just have two notes here of things that stood out to me in the game. Towards the end of the game, Liam O'Donovan chased back, I'm not sure which of the Kerry forwards it was, possibly Sean O'Shea, but he chased him back 40-50 yards. An incredible interception inside his own half, and the ball eventually broke forward. Cork got a free. Mark Collins stuck it over the bar. There was also another point in the game with 5 minutes left. Kerry were holding Cork to 117-37 at that point. Mark Collins scored a cracking point from play, one of his only from play, and he turned to the main stand in Páirc Uí Chaoimh and gave the old GAA fist bump, which rose up, so you could really tell that the Cork players were really up for it. Obviously, that was plain to see. You didn't have to be there to see that. It was obvious on television. But after the game as well, they got into a team huddle. They looked despondent. Obviously, they wanted to win the game, but you could tell, even from, we're going to hear from Ronan McCarthy afterwards, in a couple of minutes, there's a real team spirit there. And add that to the decent performance, there is a lot to take into the qualifiers.
I know it's a cliche, Jack, but they did die with their boots on, kind of they went down fighting. And I think from where this Cork team is coming from, like, that's all you can ask for. Like, they turned in another good performance. And there was a lot of good individual performances on the day. Like Ruairi Deane had another cracking match. Like, he's turning into a top player. Like, he's becoming the driving force of this Cork team. But even looking at the other end, some of the kind of the younger guys, Mark White, the goalkeeper from Clonakilty, he was very assured. I think Cork won 20 out of their 24 kickouts, which is good going. And Mark was able to vary. He went long and he went short. He made a good save in the first half too. The two wing backs, Liam O'Donovan, like you mentioned there, Jack, from Clonakilty, and Matty Taylor, two young fellas who only made their debuts, Matty last year and Liam this year, who caused Kerry no end of problems. Like, they're full of energy, boundless running. Cillian O'Hanlon in midfield from Kilshannig was very, very good again. Probably the best midfielder on show. His run led to the penalty in the second half, and he gave Jack Barry a torrid time, and I think Jack Barry ended up being subbed off. Such was Cillian O'Hanlon's influence. So there's a huge amount of positives to take. Not only did the experienced guys, the likes of Ruairi, Brian Hurley, Mark Collins, James Lockray, not only did they empty the tank and kind of lead by example, but at the opposite end, the younger guys stood up and showed that they can hold their own at this level as well, which I think is very encouraging going into the qualifiers. And like you mentioned there, it's about the draw now next Monday morning. Hopefully Lady Luck will shine in Cork. Did I have the draw there? We have the round 3 the round 3 games are on this weekend, Jack. And what there's Mayo host Armagh, Kildare are at home to Tyrone, Westmeath are at home to Clare, and Laois take on Offaly. So out of those 8 teams, 4 will come through, and Cork will draw one of the winners of those games. So it could be tough. They could get the winner of Mayo, Armagh, or Kildare and Tyrone, which would be tough. And Cork have recent history in the qualifiers against the likes of Kildare, Mayo, and Tyrone. On the other hand, could get Laois, Offaly, Westmeath, or Clare. So you just don't know. Well, to be fair, Clare would be tough. Clare have held the upper hand in Cork in a couple of years, but hopefully Cork will get a good draw next Monday morning, because it's been billed already as one of the biggest games that Cork footballers will have played in so many years, because getting through to the Super 8s will guarantee 3 more championship games, and that's what this team needs to develop. So hopefully there's another big performance in them, and there needs to be, because as good as they were against Limerick and as good as they were against Kerry, they need to go do it again and raise their levels even more. They can't rest on their laurels, because if they go out now the next day and lose a round 4 qualifier, their season is over. And what have they, where do they stand heading into Division 3 next year?
Okay then, Kieran, we'll just leave it there for a moment, because we're going to hear from Cork manager Ronan McCarthy and get his thoughts. He spoke to the assembled media after the final whistle.
Yeah, I don't know really. Look, you kind of look at it and look, you give any top team a 7-point start, you're going to put yourself on the back foot. Obviously very pleased with the response the team with after the game. But the other side of it is, look, that Kerry were on 14 men for the last, 10 minutes. Now I suppose they had a cushion of a lead of 3 or 4 points at that stage. So, yeah, look, hard to know what to make of it really. Look, we came to win the game. That was our objective. We didn't, and therefore we're disappointed.
You got 3 goals, Ronan. Like, you had a lot of other chances as well. You kind of got a lot of joy from kind of running at them after half time.
Yeah, and we got a chance in the first half as well. That certainly Mark's one that was saved. Certainly he should have offloaded that to Denis Hurley, who was free, and actually something we're very good at, and Mark is very good at actually of picking up the guy who's in a better position. With that said, look, I think they had a fairly clear cut chance of Gavin White at the other end in the first half, but look, we haven't. Ultimately, we came to win the game. We haven't done that, and there's a great sense of disappointment inside the dressing room afterwards. Yeah, look, you see, the problem is, I said this before the game, the problem, like, the gas thing about this is we're probably a victim of, we don't do dummy teams, basically, right? But we're a victim of a system that has come in to stop teams naming dummy teams. So I suppose the problem was that we had 2 fellas, John O'Rourke, and Owen McSweeney, who we knew would be tight, right? Then we had Tom Clancy, who went down on Tuesday, and Damien Gore went down on Tuesday. So, like, in years gone by, you were able to kind of hold off till Thursday, see could they train on Thursday, and then adjust on Friday. But the fact that you have to put in your 26 on Saturday, you're waiting on scans and all this kind of thing on Wednesday. So, look, we did it disrupt a bit, but it's not. Look, I think to be fair, we said to the players, look, we weren't looking for excuses, and we're not. And look, it was a little setback, but we dealt with it.
I think it was 6 ended at half time. Did you feel like you were a lot closer than that because there was goals there for you? Yeah,
I did genuinely, and actually even when we were 1-5 to a point down, I actually felt that we had a lot of the ball. I felt some of our decision making was very poor, and we paid for it at the other end. So, like, we've been quite good in the recent months at, I suppose, recycling the ball. Being patient where the opportunity isn't there. Kerry, obviously they filter men back to fill the middle. So therefore you have to be patient and work the ball, and I think we snapped at our shots. We took shots from wrong positions. We should have recycled the ball at times and gone backwards and gone to the far side of the pitch, and we didn't do it, and then paid for it at the other end. So even actually at the 1-5 to a point, I actually felt I felt we were doing okay if we made better decisions on the ball. Yeah, look, I suppose I don't ever kind of send the team out to get goals or anything like that. I suppose what we try to do is we try to encourage the players to make the right decisions at the right time. So I suppose an example of that is Mark, not offloading the ball to Brian, We probably went for goals a couple of times where they weren't on, where we probably should have taken a score. And look, I think my sense of it is, look, we'll have regrets, when we look back at the video, we'll have regrets, I suppose, in relation to that opening 10-minute period. And we'll also have regrets about, just look, a bit of inexperience and so on, and just, been just a slight bit more controlled at different times in the game.
I know it's disappointing to lose, but heading into the qualifiers now, are you in a far more positive mindset compared to this time last year? And maybe like there's more to work on and more to take into performance?
Yeah, look, I don't know is the answer. Like, I suppose what I would say is I don't look at kind of individual games. I look at the period, we'll say, since we played Tipperary. I think we've played 10 matches. And against some really top opposition, obviously in Kerry and Galway and Dublin and Donegal and so on. And look, we've been consistent and competitive in all the games. And I suppose, look, the key thing in that is that, look, it means whoever we get in the draw, we will feel we have the capability of beating them. But I suppose, look, we'll have to gather ourselves together again, and look, getting back in Monday for recovery. We'll be back training on Tuesday. And look, I think when I sit down with the players and look at the video, look, as I say, we will have regrets, but look, that's part of the learning process, and I think if we learn from that, I think we'll be a handful for anybody, whoever we get in the qualifiers.
Would one of the regrets be after the sending off that maybe Kerry kind of kicked on, kept on 2 points, maybe he didn't kind of seize the initiative?
Yeah, the funny thing about sendings off is that sometimes, and look, and I'm not saying I want to play 14 men, but sometimes, I think when they had a lead to defend, I think it helped them in the sense that, look, they were able to kind of pull men behind the ball even more than they had and hit us in the counter-attack, because obviously we had to come after the game. But look, to be fair to them, look, they weathered that storm, and you have to hats off to them. They were in a difficult position. I think 9 minutes out, I think, from the end, down to 14 men. But I suppose they were 4 points up. I think at that stage when that happened, and look, it was a cushion they probably needed.
There's also dubious. There's also a bit of controversy over a point. A lot of us thought was wide, and it seemed to be wide.
I can't. I'm not doing a Arsene Wenger, I know, but I didn't see it, so I can't comment on that. Yeah, look. Yeah, look, lads. To be fair to you, look, it is a fair question to ask, but I actually think, look, I think I'm better off not answering that question, and I'm certainly better off not answering no. Okay.
Will the injured lads be back for the qualifier game, Ronan?
The injured lads, I'm hopeful. Like, they're all. I mean, the funny thing about them is they're all kind of niggles, really. John O'Rourke, look, he's a week into his recovery now, we'll say, really, if you want to call it that, as rehab. So I'd be hopeful. I put it so, they all have a chance. But 2 weeks is tight as well, depending if they have any sort of setback. Like Nathan there, for example, I think his hamstring, you probably rule him out now. They generally take longer than 2 weeks, but they all have a chance. You see, some of it. Look, some of it is, you're coming to a game where, look, they're going for what is it? They'd won 6 in a row. They'd won by 18, whatever it was, 17 points last year. They're a fine side. Some of the commentary, look, you'd have to argue, is it fair enough? You know what I mean? What people expected to do. I suppose, look, we had countered it by saying, and I had said, look, consistently that I felt that there was real quality in the team. I suppose, look, I come away from any game really, look, win or lose, in when I've been involved in teams and managing, look, I basically come away and, I'm interested in, is the spirit there? And by Christ, it was there tonight. We came up believing we would win the game, and have fallen short. And I suppose, look, I'm pleased with, look, you can win a game, you can lose a game, look, I'll give an example, the 16 semi-final between Dublin and Kerry, which Kerry lost. Kerry that day, even though they were beaten, played, with real honour, and I felt our fellas played, with real honour tonight and spirit. But look, we have to regroup, learn from our mistakes, look forward to another big challenge, and look, you can be sure we're going to get another bumper team in the qualifiers, and look forward to that challenge.
Rory Deane's gone up a level though as well. I know he's got praise before, but again, it's the opposition tonight. Yeah, I think Rory, and I'm not exaggerating. I think Rory, is
is heading in a direction where he is in the top 10 players in the country. He's certainly heading in that direction, and certainly could become top 3. He has gone to another level, no question, and he had a good duel. They did a good duel himself and Gavin White and so on. But I think as it went on, Rory came stronger and stronger into the game when we needed him, and again, it's what we expect from him at this stage.
Well, Kieran, plenty to digest there from Cork manager Ronan McCarthy, but I think one of the points that stood out to you the most was what he had to say about Rory Deane following another cracking performance from him.
He did, yeah. Ronan said that he feels that Rory's well on his way to becoming one of the top 10 players in the country, and that he could even become one of the top 3 players in the country. So that's high praise indeed for the Bantryman from the Cork manager. Rory's become Cork's best player, most consistent player over the last 2 seasons. He's 27 now, he's turning 28 in September. He's had to wait his time to become this figurehead and talisman of the Cork football team. Rory was 25 before he actually made his first senior start in the championship for Cork. That was away to Waterford in May 2017. But since then, his importance and influence has become huge. You could see it again against Kerry last night, Jack. He's a powerful runner. Rory's very strong when he's running onto the ball, and then he'll take the ball at pace and he'll just burst through. And we saw it the last night. He was punching holes in that Kerry defence, left, right and centre. He's deceptively fast. He's wickedly strong. He's come on leaps and bounds, and like I said, he's become a leader of this Cork team at a time when Cork football needed leaders. He's really taken on the mantle. Rory did leave Páirc Uí Chaoimh on crutches on Saturday after the game, but that was only a kind of an impact injury, and he'll be fine. He's going to be fine for the next round of the qualifiers, which is good news for Cork. But it's just great to see, kind of like I said, he's had to wait his time to get his chance. But he really works so hard. We had a piece in the Star earlier in the year about even his commitment level alone. He's living in Bantry, he's a teacher in Castletown Bear, and he makes the trip up and down to Cork 3 times a week for training and so on. So he's putting up 800 kilometres alone up and down the road from Castletown Bear to Cork just for training. Commitment is second to none. But and his football ability, he's come on leaps and bounds. He's just such a strong and influential player now. So and he's someone you could see the last day. Every time he got the ball, even the fans sense it now. There's a sense of anticipation.
Yeah.
What's he going to do now? Because he's just powerful. He's a bulldozer. There's just no stopping him. And Kerry had no answer to him. Even in the first half there, when he had that chance of a goal, when he picked up the ball, there was kind of 3 Kerry defenders around him. But within 2 seconds, he'd burst past the 3 of them, and he was straight in on goal. He creates havoc, and even against Limerick, he scored a goal himself, and he missed another goal chance. He jinks slaloms, drives his way through, and he pirouettes, and he's just, for a big man, I've said it before, he's quite nimble on his feet. He's kind of the way he can just solo through and stuff. So another impressive performance. Whether he's top 10 in the country, I think, like Cork, Rory needs to get to the Super 8 and do it at that level then. If he can perform like that against a Dublin or a Roscommon, who Cork would be in the same group with, then you can put Rory into that conversation, but he's definitely, like the Cork footballers, he's going in the right direction.
Absolutely high praise indeed from his manager on Saturday evening. Well, we're going to take a quick break just now, and coming up in part 2, we'll be taking a look at this week's paper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sport Podcast. And now, Kieran, with Cork putting up a good show in the Munster final last Saturday, I'm sure that will take up a good bulk of the Star Sport section this week.
Yeah, the kind of inter-county season is in full flow these weeks, Jack. So as you'd expect, the Cork footballers, Munster final against Kerry, we've 6 pages on that in this week's sports section, including a closer look at Rory Deane and his rise He's rise to become such an influential player with Cork. We've Denis Hurley's column as usual, where he says it's so important now for Cork to win their next game and build on what they've achieved over the last couple of months. As well as that, the Cork Miners, to be fair, the Cork Miners pushed Kerry really, really close in the Munster minor final. Kerry have won the last 5 All-Ireland minor finals and they've been dominant. Unfortunately, the Cork Miners came up very, very short. I think it was 2 or 3 points in the end. But go back 6.5 weeks ago, that Kerry team beat the Cork Miners by 16 or 17 points in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. So they've really closed the gap. So we've Bobby O'Dwyer's reaction to a very, very good effort from the Cork Miners, who will still be involved in the championship. They're through to an All-Ireland quarter-final next month. The Cork Under-14 ladies team won the All-Ireland title at the weekend, and there was a lot of West Cork girls involved in that, and especially Skibbereen O'Donovan Ross's Leah Hogan, who hit a hat-trick in the final, which is superb for her. The Cork Camogie team beat Tipperary in the senior championship last weekend, and we have an interview with Orla Cronin from Inniskeen where she chats about the performance and what Cork need to do next. A very interesting story, Jack, about 2 West Cork hurlers who were on the Leitrim team that won the Laurie Maher Cup last weekend. So
they beat Lancashire in the final in Croke Park.
Yeah, and I think the Leitrim captain's speech after went a bit viral after, so it's well worth watching to check that one out. But that's Ben Murray from Ballinascarthy and Cathal O'Donovan of Argadine Rangers, and I caught up with Ben for a chat about how a Ballinascarthy man ended up hurling for Leitrim. So it's an interesting story. So that's in this week's Southern Star. Plenty there. There's a lot of local GA action as well. The Beara Under-21s were knocked out of the county championship on Monday night. They lost to Éire Óg. The Sam Maguire Sevens was launched last Friday night. So there's something for everyone again in this week's Star.
And if you can't get to the shops to buy it, which you should, you can always log on to www.thesouthernstarTV.ie/e-paper. Now, Kieran, before we wrap up today's show, yourself and myself had a very interesting trip to Bandon yesterday, which we recorded something that's going to, hopefully the listeners will enjoy a lot. I don't know, are we going to share the news just yet, or will we leave them in suspense until this time next week?
I think we can tease it out a bit, can't we?
Yeah.
Let them know, kind of our, West Cork's, I call him our, kind of, I suppose he is our Premier League footballer, our first ever West Cork Premier League footballer, Conor Hourihan, was home in Bandon, so he was kind enough to let us pop over to visit him. So we went over to Bandon to meet Conor and had a good chat with him that we're going to play next week in next week's Star Sport podcast. So I suppose Conor was chatting about what he's looking forward to next season, Jack, and kind of even just about Aston Villa and Ireland and where the Irish soccer team is. So
he was in good old form, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he's. The one thing that struck me, he's so lean. He's so lean. It's just all muscle, isn't it? He's just like there's a gram of body fat there, kind of.
Did you feel
inadequate? Yes, very much inadequate.
I did myself, especially when he shook my hand and nearly broke my wrist as well.
Yeah, and he's a handsome devil too, and he's just after coming back from holiday, so he's tanned as well. So
he's got really clean white runners.
His white runners were particularly clean and sparkling. You almost need sunglasses in the same room with him. So in fairness, Conor's a fella with a lot going for him. So in fairness, he was very good to make time for us. Make time for the
time he did give us. In fairness, there was no rushing. There was no PR person there to tell us to wrap it up.
Oh, no,
he let you chat for a good length of time.
He's a good guy, He really is a good guy and stuff. And it's great to think that he's gone to where he is, like at the very top. Like he's now a fixture in the Irish national team. He's a Premier League footballer with Aston Villa in the new season.
And very much still a proud Bandon man, because as soon as he finished recording the podcast with us, he was off down to Bandon AFC to hand out trophies to, I think, an under 12 or 13 team.
He was saying that, under 12, under 13 teams. So, like I said, like I was saying there, he just hasn't changed. Even when you talk to his friends, he's the same Conor who left Bandon as a 16-year-old all those years ago. So no, big thanks to Conor for letting us into his home yesterday. So it's something for the listeners to look forward to next week. It's a Southern Star podcast exclusive, Jack.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the assembled Irish football press there as well. It was just Kieran McCarthy and Conor Hourihan sitting down for a good old chinwag.
2 of West Cork's top sportsmen in the same room at the one time. Where else would you get it? But anyway, thanks for listening to this week's Star Sport podcast. We'll be back at the same time next week. So if you enjoy these shows,
1 second.
No, 1 second.
You're going to get it this week.
Every week, it's like a tongue twister, right? Take 2.
Maybe I should rewrite the script.
Thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast. We'll be back at the same time. Oh man, here we go.
Third time's the charm.
Thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast. We'll be back at the same time next week. If you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher or wherever else you listen to the show.
Absolute pro.
Absolutely, get in there. Can we just play that one every week?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.